distinguished global leaders and pioneers in the biggest transformation challenge of modern time. Today gathered here in the Westminister Parliament in London, UK. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Tellus, I am the Earth, planet Earth. How am I? Thank you for asking. My inner temperature and pulse is stable. It's about 6,000 degrees Celsius, and it has been so for millions of years, long before you existed and called me your home. However, it is worse with my skin, more correctly my crust, that protects you from this immense inner heat. Some form of aggressive parasites seem to explore my skin and threaten my welfare. My skin has more and more permanent wounds and don't seem to heal like it used to do when I was young. Some wounds and skin changes is not much to complain about in the present, but in longer perspective it might be disastrous for you, my dear guests, that I care so much for. My inner structure will survive and my temperature is stable. Even though my inner conditions are stable, I every now and then has to deal with my congestion and reveal myself. It's not a fart, it's called a volcanic eruption, and it can happen where my crust is thin and sensitive. It can have catastrophic consequences for your life on my skin. Am I religious? Maybe not in spiritual senses, like your relation to your gods and religions. However, I'm bound to other galaxies in a multi-dimensional cosmic system that among other controls our solar system. My star brothers and sisters have together created favorable conditions for life here on me, on the Earth. The galaxies are my original fathers and mothers with exclusive rights to my life and existence. With reference to my more and more fragile health status, I am today bound to underline to you that are my guests, you do not own me. You might see yourself as self-appointed facility earth management people. But actually, you are only here as very, very temporary guests. Thanks to the conditions for life that are extremely favorable for you here. All other living organisms, sadly not so visibly represented here today, actually constitute the basis for your and all other human survival. Since the so-called industrialization in the middle of the 18th century, humans have developed different technologies how to generate, capture and store energy. Natural elements like the sun, the wind and the waves were early not seen as sufficient for the human requirements of technical developments, with ever increasing demands and expectations for energy. With new methods, precious minerals have been exploited from my skin. The prerequisites for the industrialization accelerated quickly from the start of the fossil fuel era of the latest 150 years. Coal, oil and gas became exploited ever faster. My own skin fat, petroleum oil, came to rocket the industrial production and global civilization. My leather skin, the coal, has a longer history and still constitutes the major part of global energy supply. More than 75% of all energy in the world today is made from coal. Remember that. From the mid-19th century, the nuclear principle was developed for both energy and also for devastating warfare methods. Today, about 10% of the global electricity production originates from some 430 global nuclear power plants. However, the global expansion has taken a temporary time out as of the consequence of humans starting to realize the safety problems and the operational costs of nuclear power plants. Now, therefore, wind, solar and hydro energy has during the recent decades started to come back into fashion as an important source of clean and renewable energy, also in competition with petroleum, oil, gas and coal. Thanks to pioneering individual innovators and supporting researchers, these clean renewable energy methods are reaching ever higher performance and storage capabilities. Some recent pioneers have also developed methods for deep geothermal energy all over this planet to efficiently capture a fraction of my inner heat and convert it to clean electricity, heating and cooling, forming a new basis for smart, viable cities and industries all over my body. The demand for energy is ever increasing, and my resources of non-renewable resources, of minerals and fossil resources are becoming depleted. This exploitation of precious minerals is increasing exponentially, not least as of our transformation today towards electrification of vehicles like cars and buses, trucks and airplanes. The operation of the internet is also consuming exceptional amounts of energy and resources. But still, you humans continue to burn and destroy my skin and the lithosphere and its limited access to coal, oil and minerals needed for other purposes than combustion and energy consumption. As a consequence, you also use my very thin atmosphere. This is this thin layer here. This is our atmosphere. You use that as a sewage system. And this is my lung. This is my lung. And we need this. This is the protection that enables us to live on this planet. It's like a huge sewage. And you also devastate my bioenergy resources by cutting down the precious forests on the earth. All this negative human impact and accelerating negative climate changes are the obvious consequences. You all often talk about human rights, but human rights cannot be met without, at the same time, a balance of human obligations. For this reason, we have now reached a point where you have to start implementing human obligations. This has been mentioned by several of you here today. If not, your life, our life, and the fragile well-being on this earth will literally go to hell. The negative environmental status cannot be changed with rights, not even today's trade with emission allowances. Human rights, like the right of ownership, are based on national laws with different meaning and consequences. How far into space and how deep into my crust are the ownership laws valid? Here, different rules and regulations are deployed and often in conflict, which causes conflicts and wars about my crust and soil and biospheres and fauna, energy and minerals, not seldom with catastrophic consequences. As I mentioned in the beginning, you don't own me. You are my dear guests. Shape up in your maintenance and your use of my dear resources and body. Otherwise, coming generations will ban you. Today, many countries still wait to take the necessary development and transformational steps with development of new energy solutions. Why? Likely in the hope that other countries and individuals will make the efforts and solve the challenges. The economical and business world is extremely short-sighted and oriented around the belief that it's better to wait and see with new technologies than to start costly investments with long depreciation periods. Is the solution to start explorations of energy and minerals on other planets in our solar systems? By the way, some very famous people are looking into this right now. Maybe to move to the planet Mars even. Well, it's difficult to make predictions about the future. Maybe our current fragile home can be our sweet home for much longer periods of time. But it's time to reflect and take actions. Exactly what has been said by several of you here today. Me, I am Tellus, full of energy, in the form of heat generated and stored in my inner and complete body since the first of my existence. This clean, renewable energy is in human terms undeletable as long as our solar system exists. On certain places like Iceland, Indonesia, parts of Kenya, California and Europe, the conditions to reach this energy is particularly favorable. Iceland was 30 years the most fossil fuel dependent country in the world per capita. Today, Iceland is the only country in the world that is doing 100% renewable energy as a mixture of hydro and deep geothermal energy. And they have more energy on Iceland than they can use their own population. So they are looking to export this. Me, Tellus, I'm in my inner core a gigantic, undeletable heat source. However, in contrast to my sensible and quickly depletable skin and crust, soon oil and gas will be gone. Even though if the technologies for solar, wind and hydro will evolve, a fourth leg on the chair is needed, an energy source that can help and protect humans 24/7, 365 in the form of emission-free, renewable baseload energy. I've said it before, you don't own me. However, I'm willing to treat you with parts of this energy when you act responsibly and strategically and dare to leave the quarter economy and short-sighted profit maximizations. Everyone is democratically invited, and my heat and my clean energy is undeletable, available and sufficient for everyone. Come on, all multi-billionaires and rich countries. When are you serious going to do anything about these long-term issues for the humanity? You anyway cannot bring anything with you when you leave your human life. Your time is now. Thank you. I also wanted to show you one or two pictures of a project that I have been doing the last 10 years. It started as an idea from a lady researcher in Gothenburg in Sweden, and she has family roots from Hungary, a country with very favorable geothermal conditions, more than 5,000 wells all over Hungary, but lack of technology to convert it to electricity and others. And what we did during 10 years, and it took enormous work, that was to develop together with industry partners a way how we can reach this heat. We need to go several kilometers down into the crust with a hole And the trick is to create permeability down here in the bedrock, because mostly the bedrock doesn't look like it does in the Rift Valley in Kenya, where you have natural permeability in the bedrock. There it is extremely feasible and relatively easy to build these plants, but in Sweden, for instance, you couldn't build a plant with that method. You have to find another technology, and the result can look like this. This is what we have presented to municipalities and cities in Sweden, which is a very small building. Imagine it like a one-family villa, and this facility facilitates energy for 5,000 flats with heating and cooling and electricity without any chimneys, no emissions, and a day around every day of the year for inevitable time. We did not succeed to build one of those in Sweden. No one is willing to be the pioneer. Everyone wants to see a reference somewhere else. So you immediately have a catch-22. But I got invited by the city government of a city called Changshu in China, 60 kilometers west of Shanghai, and they decided we will build the first one. This is going on right now, and I hope that will pave the road for several others. This is a huge problem in Sweden and in some other countries. The lady from Iran, I think, referred to this. This is incineration of trash coming from single-use plastic packaging. Nowadays they build them quite fancy. They look like offices, but they still have chimneys because inside it's very dirty business. And therefore I started a project together with a Swedish innovator. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a Swedish standard milk package. It's a paper carton product, but inside it's laminated with fossil fuel plastics. This cannot be recycled. So all these packages, together with the rest of Europe's packages basically, are imported to Sweden and burned in these massive plants. And these plants are not like a nuclear plant located with security distances from the people. This is just next to schools and daycare centers and where people live. And it's basically showering them constantly with dioxins and very other toxic things coming from this mixture of trash. Because this trash is, as you can see, not clean. It's not one material and not one piece of plastic. It's hundreds different types of plastic, and then you can't recycle it. So one solution to solve it, it's not the final solution, but one solution to get away from this situation is to start using one type of plastic, not hundreds of different molecules, because then you can actually recycle them. And that is what we have developed a solution. And it's very, very simple. This is actually not the real thing, but the milk will be in a bag inside the paper carton. It will not be this plastic bag. It will look like this, like a ball. And when the milk or yogurt or whatever it is in a ball, then you also solve another problem. Then you can empty all the content of the package without having to throw away 5% of the remaining milk or yogurt inside the package, because you can't empty it. The round spheric form enables us to empty the bottle, and this can be produced by recyclable plastic. So all this material can be separated and recycled as paper carton and as plastic. Next step in the development is that this plastic will not be produced from any fossil materials. It will be produced by cellulose material that comes from the forest. So our forests are becoming the new oil wells. That's what we need to learn. And there are immense, very interesting development going on in that field. But anyway, this new type of package, in Sweden we have a company called Tetra Pak. They have more or less a global monopoly of the dairy product packaging market. Those packages will be forbidden from the 1st of January 2022, according to a new European law. So the whole industry has to change all this, and we have found a bridge solution to replace them, but obviously there is more research going on and needed. I mean, if we don't solve this problem, like several of you have said today, the only alternative, we have to stuff ourselves because we have no future. We are gone. It's history. But don't fall into the wrong hole now. Don't fall into despair. There are lots of amazing people like you and many others, and there are lots of innovations going on, not in Coca-Cola and the big corporations, but below one single desks late in the evening by individuals. They are solving these problems. And when we solve these problems, then we can have an amazing future on this planet. This future is yours, it's your children, and it's your future generations. So don't fall into despair. We can have a very good time in the future, but we need to act responsibly. By that, I want to thank all of you for coming here today to London. I came in from Stockholm, and it was very great to meet you here. And last but not least, I have to say some words for the host of today, Mrs. Hodma Salat. I met her in Mexico City together with an amazing guy called Al Gore. You might claim that he's just an American Yankee, but he has a heart in the right place. And he gathered some, I think we were 1,500 people at Hilton Hotel in Mexico City, and he certified Hodma and myself, so we are part of his team. And at that time, Hodma also suggested that we co-found this Green Ambassador, but this would not have been possible without all of you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We have the lunch outside, so please grab your lunch and come here and have your beautiful lunch. And then we make sure we have a carpet, so let's make sure we are tidy after ourselves.
We will be picked up by the training team, so we can make a quick network on lunch, so we can go head to the training place.
Come and enjoy yourself.
You can stay on. Where are you staying? Oh, that's my Perfect. My darling, have lunch. Yeah? Are you going to the training as well? You can? Okay, well, it's not too small, so if you want it, that's fine. You can come here. But not being clean. Yeah? There will be a good opportunity. Go. Let's have a training and something. Come here. I'll be trying. You know, like someone else come on.
the battery there?
Which is, of course,
Leila, are you grabbing lunch? Okay, great. I don't want you to go before I say goodbye.
and the risk is that we get caught in the system, burning everything because everyone needs energy. But we have to learn
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, of course you saw.
When you see these pictures that were shown, you realize that all this plastic about each other is
Maybe you say the number?
Thank you. By the way, I'm going to ask you many times.
That's the way to look. Exactly.
My background is petroleum and economics, so I'm looking forward to that knowledge is extremely demanding. Where is it over there? Because here there's a lot of competition going on here. Let me just find a card. No problem. I'm looking to travel.
Okay, so
Where
we're
am I
gonna
gonna
be
give my
heading
sons? You know,
training soon, guys.
But all this time you have invested in learning about the new solution, that will pay back more than 10 times. Because this is a company that with which I am helping other countries and industries and governments to solve some of the issues. It's not a quick fix, it's not easy, but there are solutions. And there's a lot of amazing people that have fantastic
She's gonna
ideas.
come here. She's gonna connect us.